happy Sunday to you, and also welcome to 2025. Happy New Year. This is our first Make It Sunday of the year. I'm Sarah from Funky Fossil, and every week we do a short kind of tutorial demo play with some of our craft supplies. So today I want to use some of our recently released products, our Songbird die, and this isn't a particularly recent stencil, but our Birds in Flight stencil, and I want to use them together on a journal page. So hopefully this will be a quick and quite a fun make as well. The reason I want to do this journal page is I got some new watercolours for Christmas, so I want to have a play with my watercolours, and also because I'm going to be using watercolours to create my background, I'm using a Pink Frog watercolour card. It's 280 GSM, so it's a really good quality cardstock, and it takes lots and lots of moisture, which is what we're going to be doing today. So I will be having the Pink Frog watercolour card in store at Funky Fossil very, very shortly. I do highly recommend it. So let's get playing. Now the technique I was wanting to use today is a very kind of long established one you may well have already seen and tried yourself, but sometimes it's nice to get those kind of older techniques back out and remind ourselves about them. And I'm not sure I remember the last time I did this actually. I've also got some Stella paste as well, but that's for when we get to the stenciling later on. So I want to create a background, a kind of really abstract background in this style. And so the magic ingredient, in addition to our watercolour card and our watercolours, is clingfilm. So kind of basic, all-purpose clingfilm that you would get or use in the kitchen, I've heard people say. And I'm going to use that to create that kind of beautiful kind of abstract lines, almost fractured look in the background that we've got here. So that's what I'm going to do first, have a bit of a play to create our background, and then we will be able to create on top of that. So what do I need? I've got water here in front of me. I've got a wide brush to really kind of wet my cardstock, and then obviously I've got a kind of largish brush which will enable me to apply the colour. So I got these watercolours for Christmas, which I'm super excited about. They're Winsor & Newton ones, but I like them because they've got such a kind of big palette of colours in there. And today I'm thinking that I want to go with the kind of dark blues, greys, blacks, because I want to almost create a night scene that our birds will be flying through the sky on. So I am wanting the kind of darker end of the palette here. I'm just going to activate it with water. I am no expert on watercolouring, so you're just going to see me just splashing them about and having fun with them. If you didn't have or don't have watercolours, then I think you would be able to equally get the same effect with kind of sprays or your kind of mica powders. The key with this is really making sure your cardstock is nice and wet, and at the point when you apply your cling film, the colour is still wet on the card, so it will move and respond to that cling film being applied to it. But beyond that, I don't think there's any great skill involved. So I'm wetting my brush. I'll just put some into our palette here. And I do want to get reasonably dramatic colours. And of course everything will fade a little bit. Being watercolour. You can see I'm just going to scribble the colour onto the paper, because we're going to be, the colours will merge and move in their own right, certainly when I've got the cling film on there as well. I'd love to know if this is a technique that you've used in the past. Let's get some of these stronger blue in as well. It's a nice blue. That's probably a bit bright though, because I'm wanting to create a bit of a moody look. You can see here there's a very little rhyme or reason to, let's see what this is. I haven't swatched this out, as you can imagine. I'm not that organised. This is a nice black, I think. So yeah, this will create a bit of mood. And this is what I like about this technique, in that you really don't need to have any skill. You don't even need to be too conscious or considered purposeful about where you put your colour. It's enjoying the process of playing with the paints, and also the abstract nature of what you're going to get at the end of it all. Let me just, I'm not sure which one I was using there. Well, that's the blue. Let me mix some of this blue and the black. And black's always a very dominant colour. Probably put a bit too much on there, but it doesn't matter. I'm feeling very relaxed today. It's the first of the month. I'm on the day that I'm recording this, so this is just really an excuse to have a play. And we do these videos every Sunday, every week. So if you don't already, please do like and subscribe to our channel, because there's lots of inspiration and we've got lots of exciting things coming from Funky Fossil in 2025. So you can see this is all still very wet. If my friend Erica was watching this, she'd probably be screaming aloud, because she's very, very talented with her watercolours. So she would probably wonder what on earth I was doing here. That's it. So there's quite a nice amount of colour on there, isn't there? It will all fade a little bit, so I am being very generous with the colour I apply. I think that's as much as I'm going to get on though, because I'm just going to just keep saturating the paper, aren't I, the more I do this. I'm just kind of dotting this on because it will melt in its own time. And as a novice to watercolour, I am somebody who is quite considered and likes to really be quite specific about what I do with my mediums and my shadings. This is a nice way of challenging myself as the new year begins. Right. So that paper, I'm trying to put this out of eye shot for you. This paper is now well and truly saturated. Got lots of fabulous colours on there, so we're just going to put our cling film over the top. And the kind of the one downside of this technique is it requires a bit of patience, because you then need to wait for the background to dry. But I think it's worth it, and as a result, I would typically get several of these on the go at the same time, so have lots of fun. Can you see the way it's moving there? It's fantastic. Have lots of fun daubing my colours on, and have several drying at once, so I can be using lots of backgrounds for the following makes. We've got enough texture going on there. And can you see, I'm hoping you can see on camera quite well, that as I'm moving this cling film, it's moving the paint with it. So that's what will create these kind of lines as it dries, because the paint's almost being sucked up. So where you get these crisscrosses of the cling film, that's almost kind of lifted some of the paint off the background, and you're going to get that kind of white lines or that fragmented look. as a result. Now challenge will be lifting this up because it's nice and damp. I've seen people who obviously do this technique and are much more organised than me quite often will have the paper taped to a substrate so they can lift it up and put it to one side for drying. But if I lift that up, hopefully you can see. I think we're going to get some cool lines there. And in effect you can just keep smooshing it around until you're happy, without really knowing quite how it will look at the end. And that's the thing that I'm going to challenge myself with this year, is just being a bit more relaxed and letting go of the end result. So let's put that to one side and give it some time to dry. And I shall be back once I have cleaned down my surface and we have a background to start working on. So I shall see you in a minute. While I'm waiting for my backgrounds to dry, I've still got them on the side here. And that is to say, it will take a little while for them to dry with the cling film over the top. I just thought I'd share with you a very quick way that you can use these kind of backgrounds in a really mindful sense. Just taking your time and enjoying the shapes and colours that come through on the dried cling film background. So I've just got some coloured pencils in the similar colours to the background that's dried earlier. And I'm just following the lines really that the cling film has created, and just very lightly adding a little bit of definition by simply taking my pencil over those shapes in a very, very soft way. And it's really gratifying to see the kind of shapes emerge. Add your shading and definition, and you can take this kind of thing. To do a background like this could take several hours if you're really just wanting to immerse yourself in that process, not thinking about necessarily an end purpose or goal for it. It could just be something where you add some words at the end of it and use it as the kind of the focal point on your project. But just adding those colours as you go. And I just find it really relaxing because it just kind of forces you to focus. It's like colouring in, isn't it? It just forces you to kind of focus your mind on the process itself. You can't do it quickly. You've got to kind of just let those colours build up and add touches as you go, stepping back every now and again, looking at what you've got, where you've got to, and where you want to add a little bit more definition, and then relaxing and enjoying it. And there's no purpose to it other than bringing out the shapes that the cling film has created when the paint's dried around it. Probably best with a fairly sharp pencil. The watercolour card has a slight texture to it, which again is lovely because that adds further definition to your image. And you can see the difference in the areas that I've started to add a bit of colour to the ones where it's just the dried paint. I'm not going to do that on the finished the journal page we're working on today, but certainly it's the kind of thing that is a really lovely way to spend a bit of time just enjoying colour and abstract shape when you've got several of these made. So I thought I'd just share that as one way of using these cling film backgrounds while I'm waiting for this to dry. And I've still got a bit more time, so I'm going to carry on colouring in for now. So I'll see you again in a minute. Okay, well, let's see what we've got. These aren't completely dry, and when I've seen people on YouTube doing these backgrounds, they've said leave them for even kind of overnight. So I've only left these for a couple of hours, so I can still feel the cardstock is damp. But I think we've got the effect that we were looking for. How cool does that look? Oh, I love that. So you can see there's still a bit of wibble on in the card. It's still damp, so I'm going to need to let it dry fully. But what a dramatic effect it gives. It's like shattered glass, isn't it? This one has some darker colours in. So let's see. And this Pink Frog watercolour card has really worked well for this. Oh, they're both so different, aren't they? Actually, I say two because I did do another one while I had everything out and once I turned the cameras off, and I can't remember now which one I did on camera. It might have been this one. I'm not sure. It might have been this one. But say, really different effects, same process, same colours. Probably had more blues on this one, so it's a slightly deeper colour, but I love this one as well. It's really kind of really frosty, couldn't it? So I think that has worked nicely. I'm going to still just give them a little bit of time to dry without the cling film on. They might dry a bit quicker without the cling film because it's obviously holding moisture in. And obviously this is the one that I was working on when I showed you about the kind of pencil shading, so you could deepen these designs even further. This is quite a pale one now, isn't it? I wonder how much lighter this will go over time. Anyway, really love it. We want to create some focal point that's going to go on this journal page, and what I've done already off camera is die cut our songbird die. So I think the Sunday Maker bundle this week will be our die and the stencil. I'll have them as a little combo, because although I use other products, I don't like to make the bundles too big. You may already have some things, and the whole point is to give you an idea or some inspiration for using what you already have. So fantastic die, I love this. What I've done already is cut it. I think I've cut this one 3 times out of black card and stuck it together, so it's got a little bit more weight and dimension. I do have a 4th one cut, and I may stick it on, or I am thinking I'm going to heat emboss our bird cage. I may snip out the bird and pop it back on top, so the contrast, you've got a black bird over a kind of metallic bird cage. But let's get that metallic finish on the bird cage first. Let's get a bit of cardstock. And what I thought I'd do is I don't want this to look too bright and shiny. I want it to have a little bit of a kind of aged look. So I'm going to go with polished gold, which is bright and shiny, and some of our tarnished treasure, which has got some kind of silvers and golds, and then a slightly bluey tone as well. So mixing those two on the bird cage will give me a bit more of a muted finish. And I'm looking around and realise I do not have my embossing ink pad to hand, so I'm going to have to turn off the camera, go and get that, and I'll be back in a second. Sorry about that. This time I have my embossing ink pad, so that will help me get the finish I'm looking for. Got my die cut just on my craft mat here, and I'm just smooshing the ink onto the surface. Because you're going to do this several times, it doesn't matter too much if you miss any parts of the image on the first go. So I'm going to try and build up a little bit of dimension on this. I can almost give it an enamelled look. So I'll start with a little bit of the polished gold. Not wanting to cover all of the image, so flip it, pop this back in, and I'll put a bit of the tarnished treasure on. This is one of my favourite things to do with embossing powders, just to get that kind of variegated look, add interest and dimension to an image. And of course, wherever the first embossing powder has already adhered to the image, that is going to reject the second embossing powder you put on, so you get the two of them side by side. I'm just going to heat this, and then after I've done the first heat, I may well just turn the camera off while I do another 2 or 3, because you won't want to watch me do all of this on camera. But let's see what we get with just the first pass. So of course this is on black cardstock already, so that gives it a little bit of depth and dimension if there are any areas that haven't caught. I'm missing a bit just there. Sorry about that. So I love that, just on the first pass. I think that's got real interest to it. I'm just going to do that one more time off camera, and I think that will give us the kind of metallic look we're wanting to get for this particular die cut. So I shall be back with my finished die cut in just a second. Okay, so we're nearly at the point of finishing our journal page. I put another layer of embossing powder onto our gilded cage. I think that looks really, really good. So just having more layers of embossing powder means that they melt into each other every time you heat them, and it gives you a kind of thicker enamelled look. What I've also done off camera is used our bokeh circles stencil. This was part of the Sunday Makers bundle, I think, from the last week. And I've used the largest of those circles with a bit of white acrylic paint just to create a moon in that top corner on the journal page. Of course, the acrylic sits nicely on top of the watercolour, and the acrylic now won't move once it's dry. I've deliberately kind of left a slight fade out in the centre because I really like the texture of this cling film background, kind of giving it a bit of giving it the look of the moon. So we're going to have our birdcage in the bottom corner, so we're kind of working across the page like this, and for finishing touch I want to just add our birds in flight stencil, so it looks like the birds are escaping from the cage, and of course they'll fly into that moon, creating a silhouette. And just kind of make sure that the stencil connects those two elements on the page, which it will do. And we'll use our raven for this. I was toying with the idea of using the gold stellar paste, but I just thought actually the black will be a little bit more dramatic against the textured background. So get a palette knife, you can see all the glorious shimmer in there. And raven has got a kind of blue undertones to the black as well, which of course will work nicely with the background that we've created. And I'm hoping, because my paper's a bit bumpy still, that the stencil's going to make good contact with that paper and give me a crisp image. Just get that last one at the bottom there. There we go. That looks stunning, doesn't it? Really lovely. I'll put that off to one side to wash. Now I'll have a bit more drying time while the stellar paste is drying, so I'll probably complete this journal page off camera, but I'll show you the finished result. But you can see exactly where we're going here with the bird cage kind of connecting up to the moon. I'll put some words here, sentiment here, and I'm still trying to decide whether or not to add the black bird back over the top. So this is the one I snipped out of the fourth die cut, and you can see you can kind of fit that back over the top, and it looks then like a bird like the others that are flying up. I might do that. I think that maybe connects the two elements even better. So let this dry, add some words, maybe a few splatters, because that's the way we roll, and I think we'll have a really dramatic cool journal page for our first one of 2025. Love this background. I think I'll be using this cling film technique again on future backgrounds, because I think it's super effective and very easy. I hope you've enjoyed watching it. I hope it's inspired you to do something in your journal this weekend, and I hope you tune in again next Sunday for our next episode. And like and subscribe to the channel, with lots more coming from Funky Fossil in 2025. See you soon. Bye for now.